Hey everybody. So today's project is a little bit different than some of the other videos I've already done. Um, with the name of this video is the Resin Fail, and you will see why at the end. I wasn't sure I was going to put this all together into a video, but I figured I'll make a really quick one and we'll put it together. So the first thing I'm doing here is I am just rounding out this piece of wood I made as a blank, and then I'm going to make a little bit of a cup on the inside, kind of like a very shallow bowl. This is going to be the base of our project. Um, the reason it's the resin fail, it wasn't anything that I had done in the manufacturing process. It was just something to do with the resin that I used. I didn't use the correct type of resin, which is the reason it failed in the end. But the whole process and everything like that, it's still kind of interesting. So I says, you know what? Let's just put a video together. Sometimes the bullfighter wins and sometimes the bull wins. And today the bull won. So as you see, I started off by just making that shallow bowl. And now I drilled some holes in the base of it, and I'm sticking these little flowers in there. The goal was to encapsulate these flowers in the resin and then kind of turn it into a neat little shape. So I got my resin going in there. I glued some little moss at the bottom just to kind of make it look cute and whatnot. So it fits in a coffee can. So I put some hot glue down here at the bottom, obviously, and we're going to glue it to the bottom of the coffee can so that when I pour the resin, it doesn't decide to float, because that's what wood does. It floats. So here I mixed up the resin, and this was my beginning of my failure. The resin that I use, I find it works better if you warm it up first by putting the jugs into a bath of hot water and bringing the temperature of the resin up. And I did not do that for this first pour. I didn't think that the resin was going to go above the wood. I kind of just thought it was going to fill around the edges, so I kind of skipped that step. And it did come above the wood, and it did leave a bunch of bubbles at the wood's edge, which is what happens. Also, this resin can only be poured in half-inch increments. So it literally took me 3 days of pouring half-inch increments to pour the full length of this coffee can. I peeled the coffee can off of it, but I couldn't get the bottom to come loose, so I kind of just made a little persuasion there. And in pouring the layers of the resin in the half-inch increments, they got to dry for a couple hours, at least 5 hours in between pours, which is why it took me 3 days to pour this thing. And one of the troubles that I ran into is the second or the third from the top layer, for some reason, did not dry clear. It was very cloudy and foggy, and I don't know if I just didn't mix it well enough, or I'm not sure. It was the bottom of the jug before I switched to a new jug of the resin project or resin stuff. So that could have been part of it. Honestly, I'm not sure. So I decided to just finish it off anyway, just to go through the process. Here I'm just shaping the base, getting all the excess resin off the bottom because I want the bottom to just be all wood. Now, even though the resin didn't dry clear, it's still the same procedure as if it had dried clear, if that makes any sense. Um, so I cut my little tenon, so I'm going to put it over here on my chuck. We're going to chuck this thing up, and we are going to start turning the resin. I put a little wood block on the tip of it, just a little bit of carpet tape to hold it on, a little double-sided carpet tape. I like carpet tape. It's kind of easy to work with. It's very thin, and it's extremely sticky. So now that everything's in place, we're going to start shaping the resin. And if you notice, I'm using a little pair of pliers to tighten my tailstock. It's because I broke the handle and I need to build a new one. So here I'm just using my little gouge here to just kind of shape the bottom up a little bit, switching up to a scraper, which I find for resin really works a lot better than most of the other tools. The scraper, you could take very fine cuts on it, and I find with a lot of my cutting tools I tend to cut a little too deep, and then I end up with like little shattering and bits and pieces that fly, and things like that. So the plan is to get it as smooth as I can get it. And there I am back to a scraper. And as much as I enjoy turning the resin, I hate turning the resin because of the mess that it makes. Those resin strips that fly everywhere in the shop, they get everywhere, and you got to clean them up and dispose of them in the trash. Whereas my sawdust stuff, I tend to like to dump it out there by the chickens, and the chickens get to pick through it and do their thing. And it's a good way for me to use my sawdust, but I can't use my resin shavings that way because the resin's not good for the chickens. So here I'm just kind of rounding the top of this thing. And those resin strips tend to get caught in the tailstock, which you're going to see here in a minute. And they're going to get all tied up and make a mess. You got to pull them out. Fun. So you'll see me rounding this out. Again, I got another big wad of stuff stuck in the tailstock, which again is a pain, which is one of the reasons I don't like turning the resin, but it's so cool. I can't help it. So they do make a deep pour epoxy resin, which is what I'm going to go with the next time I do this kind of a project. I'll probably pick some up and experiment with that. This is actually like the biggest epoxy project I had ever tried, and like I said, the reason it failed was because it was the wrong epoxy for the job. They do make a deep pour epoxy, which is made for going for these deep things. But in theory, I could have used this epoxy and make as many layers as you want in, half-inch layers. And once the two layers bond to each other, you actually don't see any kind of separation. They blend together beautifully, except for that one bad layer I had for some reason. And I don't know, again, why it happened. The only thing I could think of is maybe I just didn't mix it long enough. So, but here we're going to take the tailstock off. We're going to start rounding this end out and get to moving on this thing. Okay, so this is the abrasive sanding paste that I like to use. I like it because it's made relatively local. It's here in the U.S. By a man in Pennsylvania, and it's really good stuff. I see a lot of wood turners use Yorkshire grit, which is apparently more available in the UK than it is here in the US. Although some US places do sell it and you can order it online and whatnot. But I like to support my country here and buy from this guy in Pennsylvania. It's real good stuff. It works very well. I have not tried the Yorkshire grit to compare it to, but it's just my personal preference of what I like to use. Everyone has their own personal preferences. And I found some more scratches, decided it needed a little more sanding real quick before I put some more wood paste on there, or sanding paste. And then we're going to switch to the polishing paste, which just is basically a finer abrasive in the same kind of material, and it gives it a nice shine. This is the finished product right here. You can see the bad lines of where the bottom looks okay, but towards the top there's that band of cloudiness and the stream of bubbles from the bottom. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. Even though the end result didn't come out perfect, it was still a fun project to work on, and now I know what to do in the future. And hopefully the next one will come out looking a whole lot better. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you then. Take care.